creating this quick video to go over some of the UI or user interface basics of Creo. Creo is using the same engine as Pro Engineer, except that it has a completely redesigned UI that is more modern. In fact, it actually meets the Microsoft Ribbon certification. So, when you first start up Creo, it'll have the standard buttons, set working directory, open. Of course, if you click on this tab here, this one also has a new open, save, save as. That tab is always available, and there's always a pull-out tag. It's the only one that works that way. That tab is always a pull-out tab. All the other ones are static. So let's go ahead and just open up something I have here. I think I'm just going to open up something called Creo one part that I created. So you open up files like you normally would. The main difference, you'll see that the user interface is ribbon based. So the main tab is called Model. It has all of the things that you normally would need, such as regenerate, create planes, axes, points, coordinate systems. Anything that is not something that is very common can be found in the pull-down menus underneath that section. So the easiest way to work with the ribbon is to understand that when you're in the Model tab, you have these sections separated by these lines, and the label down here tells you what that section is related to. So this is operations. This one is all datums, datum type features. This is called shapes for doing extrudes, revolve, sweeps, swept blends. Anytime you see an arrow, that means that you probably have more than one option, such as a helical sweep. And again, when you click on this arrow, it'll find a feature that's not widely used. Over here you got the engineering section. Engineering features are features that you can place on the model without having to create an actual sketch. So a hold, round, chamfer, draft, those type of things. And again, you'll have other features in this pull down that are not very common, but they're all available there. These are the editing features, which will only highlight according to if you have something like if I pick this surface here, you'll notice that I can do an offset and an intersect. It only highlights what makes sense according to what I got currently selected. But everything else, this is all pretty much works like it does in Pro E, other than the way it looks. And then of course here you have all your surface modeling, boundary blend, all that. Now this here is called the display toolbar. The display toolbar is static. It stays floating in the center regardless if I change my tab. So let's change to the analysis tab. You'll see all the analysis type commands. Again, they're all in different sections and groups. This is the manage group, custom, model reports, measurements are all found here. But as you notice that no matter what tab we change to, annotate, the render tab, this is universal. This always stays there. The reason for that is that it has things like the zoom all, it has the repaint. You can change the shading mode. This is the realistic shading. This is the standard shading in Pro Engineer. One of the things they added in Creo is this new shade with edges, which is what we select as the default. Shade with edges basically highlights the edges of everything, so it's a lot easier to see when you're doing something like let's go ahead and look at a front view. Okay, actually let's go with a top view. Sometimes, depending on the lighting and the feature, it can seem like some of these things disappear. Let's say if you had this round was not there, let's go ahead and get rid of this round, and we're going to get rid of this round, and then let's go view top. You see how the edge of that cylinder is almost impossible to see when you're looking at it directly? Well, that's the old shade mode. The new shade mode, shade with edges, will always allow you to see the edges of everything, so it makes it easier to see under different circumstances. Once you get used to it, it's actually preferred. Of course, you just saw me, this is how you manipulate your views, and this is the view manager, which does the cross section, simplified representations, all that. And then you have your turn your datums on and off, your axes, as you can see here, points if you have any, and then the spin center. Again, the spin center is always on by default. That allows you to spin the model at the center of the model, center of the volume. If you uncheck that, it'll spin wherever the mouse is. Again, this is good if you're zoomed way in and the center of the model is off screen somewhere, but you want to just spin right here. You turn off the spin center, it allows you to spin right where the mouse is. If you have this turned on and you forget and you try to spin, it is very sensitive because it's spinning based off of the center way over here. So all this is standard Pro-E stuff, but that bar has those type of commands on it that you use very often, and it keeps them front and center. Another thing you'll notice is that if you right click, you can choose what shows up in that bar. So if you don't use the refit or repaint very often, whatever, you can customize it. But other than that, the file, the new, open, save, undo, redo are up here. This is regenerate. You also find it on this tab, obviously for the model, but if you're over here in a different tab, you can regenerate by picking up there. This is to switch windows, so if you have more than one model open, this is how you'll see a list of them. And this is to close. Here again, you can customize this toolbar and choose what you want to see and not want to see. Over here you'll see the model tree again is very similar to Pro Engineer. Extrude section, nothing has changed in regards to how things are labeled or named. If you click on here, you can switch to the layers just like you do in Pro-E. The way you turn on and off your model tree is with this button, so now you have a full screen. You can also turn on the internal browser, web browser, by clicking on this little globe. And again, you can turn it off. And in the Pro-E, you had these little buttons or like shades that you pick here to minimize this and maximize it. Well, now they're down here. It makes for a clean user interface. If you click on this other little tab, just like in Pro-E, you can actually search directories and things like that. And this is more for libraries, which we don't really use too much. That's pretty much it for the ribbon UI. One thing I will show you on this short video is that the search function is how you find commands that you may not know where they moved in this new user interface. So if I typed in draft, start typing in the word draft, you notice that it finds the features. When you move your mouse over it, it highlights the tab and it highlights the feature. If you look to the left, the model tab is yellow and the draft feature is yellow. This is true regardless of where you are. So if we're in the view tab, okay, and we type in the word draft and we're looking for the draft feature but we don't know where it is, you move your mouse over to it, and again, even though we were in the view tab, it changes to the model tab and highlights the feature for you. You can actually click right there inside the search and it puts you right inside that feature. So it's a very intuitive thing, the way they designed it. Even if something is buried, like say Helical Sweep, so let's go to a different tab and type in sweep, and here's helical. So again, it switches to that tab, highlights the sweep, opens the submenu, highlights helical sweep, so you can always find what you're looking for. And again, you can hit this little X to cancel out of that search. So that is the lifesaver right there for anybody looking for anything that you don't know where it's located. You can type it in there and it'll find it. In the next video that I'll create, I'll show you some basics on manipulating the model and some things that are different with Creo. But this is just a basic rundown of the ribbon interface and the search function. But pretty much everything is the same as far as features, how to create them, how do you spin models, all that is the same as Pro Engineer. So stay tuned for the next video.